Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. I lost my gavel, so I'm gonna use this bottle of water, call the meeting to order. I'm gonna try to remember to keep that in my purse the next time. Brian is expected to join us shortly, and Kate is not feeling well tonight. I see Deborah, you have a cat, which is cool. And you're smiling, which is even cooler. And Adrian cannot have her cat here today because she's joined us in this beautiful library. And I just want to introduce the guest we have today. His name is Mike Schaap, and he's here participating, and he's actually one of our candidates for open seats. So Mike, I have Miss Harriet and Mr. Frank here as well.
Brian is here now.
Hey, Brian.
Online or in person?
And then we also have Colin Howard.
Colin Killer?
No, Howard.
Hi, Colin. This is Holly Simeone. I'm the chair for the commission. Thank you for joining us tonight. Would you mind just introducing yourself? Brian? You don't need anything more for the minutes, do you? If Mr. Howe, with Colin chooses not to speak.
Holly, this is Brian Postwaite. You can start the meeting. I will get attendance here in a moment.
Thank you. Well, Colin, welcome. Thank you for joining. Okay, so we have only changed the agenda 3 times. All good changes. I'm going to start by reading the agenda, and then we're going to go right into my 2 favorite things, which is reviewing the minutes. So we have 2 sets of minutes to look over, and then we have some municipal items, which is talking about Top Street, response back to mobility. Oh, hi, Jack.
And Brendan. He was a candidate.
And Frank.
What, Frank?
Oh, your dog.
Oh, yeah.
Hello.
Deborah, you look like a beach whale.
Hello?
Hi, Pauline.
I thought I lost you. I thought I lost everybody.
Another one.
Yeah. Frank, is this you?
I think that other one might be me. I'll raise my hand, for. Yes, I just raised my hand.
No. I don't see your hand raised on this.
Oh, hey. I saw it,
Well,
just very briefly.
Can you put it up again?
Okay, I put up the heart.
Okay, I see the heart. All right, so that's you.
That's me.
Yeah, let this person say. Deborah's here, Brian's here, Frank's here. Danielle, is this audio working better now? For the captioner?
yeah, yes.
Yes, I can hear it now. This is the captioner.
She is logged in both, so.
Okay,
she-
just making sure it
Yeah.
wasn't
No, that was. Jack, do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, sure. Hi there. I'm Jack Pernick. I'm a member of the public here to observe today's proceedings. Thanks for having me all. Thank you for all your work.
Thank you, Jack. We appreciate your introduction, and we're just also being very mindful that we've had two people jump on with other names. So thank you, everyone. Okay, I'm gonna finish reading the agenda. We have some municipal items. We have to review a response to give back to Mobility about their Tough Street presentation. And we also need to vote on candidates for our open seats this evening. And Adrian and Harriet and myself are going to each give some updates to the group. And our friends from 33 Bow Street are not going to be joining us tonight to answer some questions. However, I would like to share some of the other documents that I have around this. You've all been sent the variance request, which is quite lengthy, and so we get to that at the end. We'll talk about that some more. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, October's minutes, October 10th. Is there anyone who hasn't had a moment to read these riveting minutes? Say frankly, is extremely detail oriented. And they're drafted for embossing, formatted for embossing. I read them through. Does anyone else have any questions, or should we put it to a vote?
I make a motion, we put it to a vote. No one speaks up.
You can't make a motion, but you can second a motion. Oh, okay. Why can't she even? You can go in.
Only the chair for this one.
Chair. You
Oh,
can
for the
have the
chair.
motion.
That's special.
I'm gonna,
No, she's right. Never mind.
this is Holly. I'm gonna make a motion that we accept the October 10th draft minutes.
I second it.
We have a second. All those in favor, say aye. Yes,
Hi.
great.
Wait on Brian.
Reps,
Hi, there you go. You're muted, Brian.
I think I'm the only one abstaining because I wasn't here on October.
no worries. One abstain and all the rest are yeses. Okay, so the next item is the November 6th minutes. That was the meeting that we met with Mobility. Does anyone need more time to review them or have any additional questions? Okay, I'm gonna put forth a motion to approve November 6th draft minutes. Do I have
I'll second.
my second? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Oh, yes. Okay, that is approved. We now have 2 minutes done. I'm gonna just start with our municipal items. Again, this has moved around a lot in the last 24 hours. The first thing I wanted to just add to this category of municipal items is the great update. The city, this is all good, the city passed a new ordinance for closed captioning. And over a year ago that Mr. Burnley asked if I would attend one of the city council meetings to talk about why closed captioning is important for myself. So I use it.
Holly, your audio is almost unintelligible. And I'm not sure why. Because earlier it was fine.
Yeah, it's very difficult to hear what she's saying.
This guy.
I mean, the way it's designed is it should work right. If you put it like right in the between everybody, it should automatically focus on who's talking.
Was it not? Oh, okay. There we go. Is that better?
Yes, it is better.
You guys sound great.
So it took a little over a year, but the city has passed a new ordinance for closed captioning accessibility. And although it may seem that it is something that people could be fined or reprimanded for, that is not what this is about. This is about encouraging the use of closed captioning. And it's about educating business owners and other people in the community who live, work, and visit on the advantages of closed captioning. And someone likened it to the ordinance for no more plastic bags and no styrofoam containers for takeout. There's a lot of changes for that. It was great, but there are still times when you will walk in somewhere and there'll be a plastic bag or something will be in styrofoam. But the goal of this is to make communication more inclusive. And what does that mean? It means any place that has a TV screen and that TV can actually project closed captioning, and it is on, is to please turn on closed captioning. That includes things like restaurants, nail salons, I think other places, sporting places where you're looking at entertainment events. It doesn't mean that someone has to add the TV in if they don't have one. It also doesn't mean that they have to add one that has closed captioning. It's if you have it, please turn it on. It also doesn't say it has to be in English, doesn't say what language. It would be what that business has works best with the community that visits them. And the one thing that it does, which is unusual, is it gives our commission what it's called investing authority to address the lack of closed captioning in public facilities. And then it talks about ways that we can provide guidance and bringing them into compliance. And that if a member of our board were to make a complaint to the licensing authority of a violation, that it would be considered already investigated. We're all residents. Any resident could go online in the future and put in a concern that closed captioning isn't turned on. And the difference in this is if we, as individual residents, walk into a place and closed captioning, they won't turn on closed captioning, we can put in a complaint just like any other resident can. The only difference is that the board that reviews these will know that it came from a member. And so says, we believe you as members understand the needs of persons with disabilities. So we are not to go out there and start policing the world and looking for people. This doesn't start till January either. And looking for people who aren't in compliance. There will be a rollout and some communication for us and also for the community. This is a positive thing. And honestly, if we got 10% of the businesses who started doing this, that would be fantastic. So it says authority, but we really have authority as residents, I think would be the best way to put that. I don't know if you want to add anything, Adrian.
Yeah, the clerk's office did reach out to let me know, so for the commission, you know, they are considering that if you tell me, you know, that I will take it through the process, meaning I will, you know, work with the licensing commission and the clerk's office to make sure the proper sanctions are being done. With that said, there is, and we will involve the commission in this, they're exploring the possibility of having a separate form for this, for other residents to report if, for instance, they go into a restaurant and they want closed captioning and they don't know what to do, so they can report it directly, and the clerk and the licensing commission would see those directly and be able to do that. So they're sort of tinkering with it now, and once it's ready for review, they will involve the commission. But they wanted, since this is slightly different, they wanted to create a separate form. So things like this, since it's so new, they didn't want it to get like lost.
Sure. I think she talked about a form for all
Yeah,
requests or concerns about not having closed caption, but
right, exactly. And so I think there will be options where somebody can say, I went in and they didn't turn it on, even though I'm pretty sure they have it. Or I went in and the TV wasn't even on, or whatever people want. And also I think, because we also with these things, of course, as you know, believe in giving education and support to our small businesses where we can. You know, I think there's some room there, like, well, how do I turn that on my own? Because some of us have it, and we don't even know that it exists on our own television. So it's that. I see that Brian has a question.
Yes, is this a proposed ordinance or a recently enacted ordinance?
been passed.
Yeah, I believe
It's been passed, okay.
Yeah, it's supposed to start in January.
I share it only because it's an exciting thing. It's a positive thing. And speaking with city council and with Clerk Wells, this is not designed to go out there and find or police. Just as Adrian said, this is here to communicate and educate. The only time that these types of things will be looked at is, for example, if there was a local business that goes to reapply for a business permit and they see, there are these violations, health violations or compliance violations, or and if there were also a list of closed captioning violations, multiple, they may look at that as a broader picture. So that is where that data would be intersected. And again, I think if you had a facility that had a list of complaints, the first step would be education as far as closed captioning.
Can I say something?
Yes, you may.
This is Mike. There's actually a secondary benefit to closed captioning that a lot of people don't think about. When people are learning to read, they can read it and hear it like books on tape. So it's not only for people with disabilities, but it's for young people or adults who can't read. I mean, it's just very helpful.
Yeah.
Yes, Brian, his name is Mike
Chaps,
Japs.
SHAPS.
Okay, so hooray, that's all good progress, everybody.
Yep.
The next thing I want to go over is Tough Street. We on November 6th, we had a great opportunity to speak with the mobility team They showed us their plans. They took a lot of feedback from us. It was really lovely to be to have that special interaction just with the Tough Street, with the mobility team. I know, Brian, you may have missed the beginning and you sort of caught the end of that, which was very different than the first 90% of that call. We'll leave it at that. It was all good. We did have some positive feedback, and what I did is I went through and I wrote sort of a quick summary, and I'm just going to go through it. If there's anything that people feel is either not properly that is not accurate, or that would like to add, please let me know. They asked just for a response from us, and I feel that the best thing is to share these topics, and especially thank them for their time, and just send them that. Okay, so one thing that we talked about was on-street parking that was temporarily removed from the residents during the GLX work, and that it really wasn't equitable for local residents to not gain that back. Again, these are not talking points. This is just feedback. This is feedback from residents. There were concerns of how pullover spaces would work for cars, and they were these kind of like, they look like they might even have a curb to them, a short curb that a person in a car would drive up on, so that if there was 2 lanes of traffic coming back at each other and good old Somerville narrow streets, they would have a spot. Honestly, I'm used to just like pulling sideways into someone's driveway, or, you know, whatever you need to do to get through. But there was questions about how would they be labeled, and how would we know as a pedestrian that a car might pull up there? So again, this is an early design phase. So giving them this feedback is the purpose of this note. Brian, are they bollards? Those wonderful posts?
Bollards.
Bollards? They had some really nice decorative artistic bollards. Tall posts. There was one with a Lego head and it had lights in it. There was one that had beautiful art drawings. They had wayfinding on them. I think it was very positive that they had those in the designs. We talked about the art installations, places to sit, shade trees, all wonderful. Very thankful that there were additional crosswalks being installed. And we wanted to make sure that those crosswalks were parallel or intersected the street at a 90-degree angle, so that a white cane user would walk straight along them and not land in the middle of a street, would be connected to the other side. And bricks. Bricks, instead of brick pavers being used, we had suggested using wire cut concrete or something similar to that. Just because they can be problematic for people when they're walking, or people you know, when they break, even when they're placed beautifully, they can have a lot of openings that people can trip up in. One thing that was important, as Deborah mentioned, when we remove some of these trees, to please also remove the roots, because those are sometimes trees get pulled out and they don't always remove the roots, and that can continue to bless you, damage the sidewalk.
Thank you. Sorry, I couldn't mute quick enough.
No worries. Raised crosswalks, and generally raised anything, can have real safety concerns for white cane users, and possibly looking at textured panels and alternative locations or things along raised crosswalks could be something to prevent tripping or falls. Mr. Brian.
Clarification on the raised crosswalks. I'm taking these notes as fast as I can, because I'm not quite sure, Holly, what you intend to do with these comments. But just for my own professional information, elaborate on the comment on the raised crosswalks. You said they present a concern for white cane users. I can't tell if that's a positive statement or a negative statement about raised crosswalks.
Can't do that, I may.
Please, Harriet.
The issue is kind of tragic contradiction that a raised crosswalk is good for people with walkers, with wheelchairs, with strollers. Fantastic. But the only thing that's tricky is the same problem I faced when we first started having proper curb cuts, which was I, as a cane user, white cane user, couldn't distinguish them initially if it were a certain, going on the street, if it were a driveway. Now, that's not the case here, but it's the delineation two ways. One is when you set your foot on the crosswalk from the gradual slope. Well, I guess if they're flush with the sidewalk, even trickier. And so, let's say a 4-foot panel of textured panels would be really helpful, 4 feet by 4 feet, so that when I use my cane will go more than 24 inches at times, and I may miss it. It's possible to miss the
bumps.
The bumps, yeah. And
Got it.
It seems kind of absurd, but one of the ways white cane users really find helpful is we follow edges if at all possible. So it seems so silly, but having panels that would be on either side at the edge of the crosswalk would be phenomenal. Now, how practicable that is, I don't know, but I must say, it makes me quite nervous to feel it's undetermined. And I think, I don't know, Pauline, you have anything else to share about that? Because you're a cane user too, so that for me personally, and from what I've talked to other people, is a concern. And I also know that the truncated dome textural panels, I think that's what they're called, they come in two major media. One is the sort of more plasticky yellow guys, and the other are made of iron, which of course would last with trucks and everything else rolling over them. Because the first type can just have a few trucks or bad weather seasons roll over them, and it crushes them and messes them up. So those are just, from my particular vantage point, some of the issues that concern me, without any illusion that things will necessarily be able to be amended that way, but that's my experience. And I don't know, Pauline, do you want to say anything about cane use and your use? Can you unmute yourself, *6?
Were you able to tell if Pauline is, oh, because that's her phone, sorry. Just keep talking. Can you hear me, Pauline?
I can hear you, but it's muffled.
Now there's no sound.
Yeah, it's gone now.
Oh, now we can hear you.
It's magic. Maybe we have some spotty Wi-Fi, but thank you for telling us what's going
Yeah.
on.
So, Pauline, go ahead if you have something to add to that.
In the first place, did you hear what I said, Pauline?
I heard some of it, but not all of it. I know you talked about an edge that we follow, and that's right. I spent the last 2 weeks going back and forth to Mass General Hospital, and everything over there, once you get out of the cab, which I did, is almost completely flat. There's no edges or anything else. And I was fortunate to have a guide, otherwise I would have been lost. And I think the being able to have a little edge, along the, oh, what do they call it? Along the inside, away from the traffic is a good idea. If you're on a sidewalk and you're following, you either hit, an indentation like a driveway or bushes or something like that, and it's a little easier to follow that than it is just flat, straight, nothing.
Yeah, and I also was, more correctly, I was speaking about distinguishing the raised crosswalks so that it's clear to you and me and other cane users that we have actually entered the street. So that,
Yeah.
that was my main concerns. And the other was having edges on the raised crosswalk so that one stays within that, because I have to say, not all of us walk a straight line. So, yes.
Oh, that's for sure.
Pauline and Harriet, that was really helpful for me. Holly, thank you for the diversion. Just one clarification. Harriet, you preferred the cast iron or you preferred the plastic tactile warning panels?
I would like both, I suppose, but the problem is I know the endurance of the iron ones is better. They're not as quite as, from my detection with my cane, they're not quite as tall
Okay.
as the plastic ones, but I mean, in the sense of lasting, and if I practiced enough, I could get better and better at.
I got it.
And
Okay.
plastic
Thank you.
ones-
Thank you, Harriet. That makes sense to me. Holly, I'm done. Thank you for the detour.
No need to be done. It's all good.
Great.
I'm just gonna add one thing and then I'm gonna ask Frank to join the conversation. This is a short list of just giving them our responses and feedback from the meeting. The most important part was they are welcoming to have not just a walk, I believe Broadway, but also in Davis Square. And part of that would be to demonstrate how navigating raised crosswalks and the different angles that curbs can be at. And I think, and we had hoped, Brian, that you would also be able to attend whenever that was scheduled. And I think that would be great also with Pauline and any other members to in person explain what those things are like. And also at the end of my list from my fearless leader, Harriet, was the use of, I can never say it, dioramas is really helpful when we're understanding, when we're explaining any type of design features to someone who's blind. It doesn't have to be fancy, things like pipe cleaners, just simplifying sort of simple elements that can distinguish boundaries.
Precisely.
Okay, so we're all gonna get pipe cleaners. And
More material.
elevate, letter openers, whatever else, pieces of paper. So that's why I was kind of pushing you through was those two opportunities. Frank, please, what would you like to add?
Oh, okay.
Please, go ahead.
When I was traveling in Hong Kong, I noticed that they had this system of these directional detectable warning panels that have these long rod shaped buttons that are raised up on the ground. So I have some of them on my screen if I could screen share. Oh, okay. Let me see. I'll try to do that.
Well, you look for that. I'm just gonna
Okay,
add.
so that's what these are called. Yeah, like these guys. Yeah, I see them at train stations everywhere.
You know what they were? I
In
saw them
Asia.
myself, yeah.
Yes, and I was thinking that maybe that could be helpful for our crosswalk, because then that could keep Harriet guided. Now, of course, what we really need is a sample so that Harriet can actually try her claim.
Or if they exist,
They do exist, but they exist in Hong Kong.
that's what I mean.
Have you seen these before, Brian?
Yes, so, and I'll get the name of them wrong, but they're basically directional indicators. And they're intended to be followed like a trail.
Ah,
And they are available in the US.
Ah.
The problem is they don't have any legal intention. They're not codified in ADA or any of the supporting documents. It's purely an informal usage in the US. And so we have considered how to use them, but haven't figured out the best way to implement them. And what's difficult is that we've been finding a lot of studies in the US that there are actually better systems than these. And so we're still evaluating what is the best system. And once we have a suite of ideas, we would absolutely like the commission's opinion. Where we're particularly looking at them is to help provide better directionality at crossing our skewed intersections, because we can't make perpendicular crosswalks at intersections that are not perpendicular. So we're trying to think if this might be a way to provide that directionality at there, but we're not done with our research yet.
Harriet through the chair. Harriet through the chair, that's a great idea. That is a great idea. Because we know that the angles of nearly every city and town around us are very screwy.
Yes.
In other words, it would help with offset curbs and offset crossings. When you step out into the street, you'd have a better idea as to which way to go across the street if it were with these directions.
To be honest, when it comes to using them to cross streets, that's going to take a little bit more effort on our time to figure out how they would work, because most places they're not used in the roadway. And I think that's because of durability reasons and plowing and so forth. So we need to investigate that to see how we can use them. But I think especially at raised crossings, there's probably a really good logic behind it. And so I think it's worth seeing if we can find out a way to do it.
I have a question. I'm still confused about this raised crossing thing. I don't understand it. Can somebody enlighten me?
Colleen, are you asking what a raised crossing is or why?
Yeah, I want to know what it is.
Okay. Holly, may I?
Please.
Okay. I just feel that we're going on a tangent too far, and I just wanted to make sure that the chair had some control. So Pauline, a raised. Okay. Okay. So Pauline, a raised crossing. So normally a crossing is at roadway level. So you're at a sidewalk, you're 6 inches above the roadway. And so to cross the street, you drop down 6 inches to cross the roadway. On a raised crossing, the crosswalk is at the same height as the sidewalk. So you don't have to drop down to cross the roadway. Cars have to go up to cross the crosswalk. Does that make sense?
Ooh, yeah, but doesn't that imperil the pedestrian trying to cross the street?
So usually pedestrians prefer raised crossings for 2 reasons. One is because it creates better visibility for them as they're crossing the street. 2 is that they create a more level condition. So you don't have the ramp, which has the propensity to trip some people and make it difficult for people with mobility disabilities. And third, because I'm going to add a third one, is that the raising of the roadway forces motorists to slow down when they're hitting crosswalks, which is precisely where they should be going slowly.
Okay, I think I get it now, I think.
Okay,
I'm trying to think of a raised crossing that's somewhat near you.
I'm
Is-
slow, don't mind me.
in
Uh,
Cambridge, there's one down Porter Square.
it's not gonna, well, no, but I think it still hears you.
Brian, isn't there one, if you, going from Porter Square to Cambridge? I think there's one like going towards Harvard down that street.
There probably is, and I don't know exactly which street you're referring to, but I think I recall Pauline lives around Davis Square. The crosswalk across Holland Street between the head house for the MBTA and Statue Park
oh,
is a raised
Okay.
crossing.
okay,
Because you don't
okay, I think,
down across the street, you're at the sidewalk level all the way across Holland Street right there.
okay.
Harriet, through the chair, a little amendment. Pauline, you live at the corner of Lowell and Highland?
No, Highland and Walnut.
Highland and Walnut, right.
Yeah, across the street from here, actually, from the.
Oh.
the line.
Yeah,
Yeah, so are there any raised crosswalks around here? Around the central library?
not around, no, not that I know of.
Not, so
No,
Frank, we are building some raised crosswalks throughout Spring Hill in a lot of the Spring Hill construction work, especially at side streets. But most of them haven't been finished yet.
Thank you.
Okay. Real quick, last two, so we can agree to send this letter on to mobility. The other topics were having flashing lights at both ends of top streets where pedestrians would be crossing, especially on the, not Washington, the other end of,
Cross Street?
yes, cross street end, which me personally is kind of a raceway at times. And even though you may be standing in the crosswalk, having one of those solar buttons that either recognizes the motion and does not have strobing lights that would be concerning for other people, but just identifies the cars that are coming that someone's going to be crossing. And then the last one was sharing the sidewalk with the bikes to get to the green line. And we all acknowledge that cannot be something that's regulated by the city. How you ride your bike and how you walk on a sidewalk is something that we cannot regulate. However, if the sidewalk or the walkway was wide enough and we were able to sort of stripe the lane, so there was one section that's green for a bike lane, and maybe another section that could be a different color or reserved for residents, just for people walking and rolling, people not on bikes, that might be helpful and sort of prevent accidents in that way. Lastly, I'm going to close and thank them for their time and their commitment, and looking forward to doing this moving forward. If anyone has anything they'd like changed or added, please let me know. Silence is virtue. Okay, I don't think I need a vote for us to, okay, so I'll be sending this message and including everyone on it to mobility. Okay, this is a good part of the program. We have met as a team and we had 10 candidates. Of that, we have found 7 candidates that we'd like to move forward that need to be discussed and voted on as a body. And then I will prepare a letter with support as to what we as a body felt the strengths were of these candidates. And then Adrian will package all of that up with all the other materials and bring that to the mayor's office. So I'm gonna go into just really quick, short blurbs, or nice facts about our, candidates.
As much as I'm gonna.
Yeah, no worries.
It's always hard for me to do this kind of stuff. It was nice meeting everybody.
Oh, you don't have to leave. Lee.
Nice to meet you, Mike.
No, I
Okay.
think for this, I think I'm gonna, yeah.
Yeah, they'll be done in 15 minutes.
Whatever you feel.
Whatever you wanna do.
comfortable with. We appreciate.
Do you want me to
being
come
here.
get you in 15 minutes?
No,
Okay,
Okay.
I'll be back.
okay.
So, Mike is one of our, lovely,
Let them leave.
We like Mike. We like Mike.
We like Mike a lot.
We're also very glad that Mike is here. So Mike has been a resident of the city for over 2 years and he has an adult son. He is a public school psychologist for over 30 years and he will soon be retiring. He has devoted most of his life to help people with disabilities. And he shared how that work is very hard. And not only do we need to help people who aren't just elderly or children, but to help everyone in between. When we look at accessibility and inclusion. His son has had an education plan and Mike has his own, identifies with his own health issues. And one thing that I thought was really interesting was that he described mental health as well as other hidden disabilities to be an inward disability. And shared also that when people are being judged, that is also discrimination. So I felt he had a different perspective and was a very strong candidate. So we wanted to put Mike forward. Do we need to vote on each one as we go?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So I'm gonna make a motion to approve Mike and move him forward to the mayor's office for review.
I second the motion.
Okay, we have a second. All those in favor, actually, do we have any questions? Comments? No, we're good. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay.
Oh, this is the captioner again. Can you hear
We
me?
lost you again.
Now
Yeah, you gotta.
you're starting to come.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Rashid is a resident of Assembly Square. He was born in Uganda in East Africa. At the age of 3, he acquired polio and he has since been a wheelchair user. He is a sports fanatic, and he actually attended our Red Sox event. And he is very interested in art, in culture, in the integration of gender and disabilities and how all these things are diverse together. He has been a disability rights advocate as well as a policymaker for persons in Uganda and in the United States. And he talked about the inclusion of all human rights in a way to harness the culture, including disability, gender, and culture, and all things that are. Have any questions about this candidate? Okay, I'm gonna put forth a motion to proceed forward to the next
Second.
step. Oh, we got a second. Hold on. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Have it.
Aye.
scrolling around. We have Helen. Helen is a lifelong resident, a former alderman for 10 years when we were aldermen's or alderpersons. She worked for the Board of Health and the Cambridge Somerville Elder Services. And she was a former board member for the Cambridge, member of the Cambridge. Oh my
I
goodness.
thought it was a summer commission, no?
She was also.
She was the alderman liaison to the Somerville Commission for Persons with Disabilities.
Yes, she was the liaison to the disabilities community in Somerville before the ADA was in place and we officially had liaisons. So she did the job before the job existed. Her parents were part of the people who strongly advocated with Ted Kennedy to pass the actual ADA law in 1990. And she has an older sister, a younger sister. Why am I
think that's somebody else.
no, Helen.
I think you're thinking of Sheila Tracy.
Yeah.
Sorry, okay. She wants to continue to work with people who have disabilities, and she wants to ensure that our commission has its diversity in the membership and as a body of members. And anything else you want to add about Helen?
She is quite ready to serve in any way at all possible to forward and expand accessibility and ease for people with disabilities, I would say. And she also has her own disability hearing issues, and and she's eager to be of service. That's what I said.
Okay, I'm gonna put forth a motion to move Helen to the mayor.
I second your motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next we have Ingrid. Ingrid has been a resident for 10 years on Spring Hill. She's a mom with 2 little kids. She used to teach yoga at O2 Studio, which she misses quite a bit. She's had some mobility needs now with a wheelchair after many years dealing with health challenges. She also has a father who has disabilities that she's taking care of as well. She talked about being that single parents, which is how she identifies, have a much higher incidence of disability and divorce. And she was very strong about the importance of inclusion, that inclusion is everything. And she gave an example of websites and the technology and how it's not accessible. She also said that accessible is not always practical, but i.e. available readily or put into practice. So she was high spirited. She was a very happy person. She was very well spoken, and I'm gonna put a motion forward that we move Ingrid on to the mayor.
I second it.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Brian? Ingrid moves. Brian is. There you go. Brian's an aye. Okay.
That was Ingrid, right?
Laurie is a 40-year resident. She teaches nonviolent communication. She came prepared with a list of 7 projects or accomplishments that she worked on so that she could explain herself and talk about things that she sees as challenges and how she has met those. She really is, she's been very successful, and she continues to advocate in public situations. She's very aware of disability issues. And she tries really hard to support people who are not getting their needs met.
Yeah.
She,
Holly, can we move the owl closer to you? It's still cutting out, and I think it's because it's just way too far from the center of the speaking.
maybe we need bumper tables. Let me see. Doesn't have too much.
Danielle, I assume that's what you were raising your hand about.
Ryan, I'm not sure if you saw that, but I did thumbs up.
I
Your
did see
question.
that. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Just took me a moment. Okay, now you're on mute.
One more time.
There.
Did everyone hear Laurie, or should I just go back over?
You could redo,
go back.
Lori.
Laurie's a 40-year resident, teaches nonviolent communication. She shared with us a list of 11 projects and accomplishments that she has worked on. She has mobility and health needs. She's been very successful at advocating for people in public situations. She uses her awareness of disability issues to support people who are not getting their needs met. She is certainly determined and a lifelong learner. Any questions about Laurie? I'm going to put forth a motion to move Laurie to the next step as an applicant to the mayor for.
City Hall just froze now, or the library's team just froze, if you can hear me. Or maybe I froze.
No, it's them.
Okay. Thanks, Deborah.
Oh, we were.
We froze. We did freeze.
Yeah. Yeah, Holly, you all froze.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Is this for Laurie? Okay. We can't hear you again.
Sheila Tracy?
Now we can hear you.
You have to talk above your laptop. Don't talk to your laptop, talk to the owl.
With that laptop?
We're all your
Okay.
friends. You
That's
need,
exactly the problem. That's exactly the problem.
okay. Yeah, you have to talk to the owl, not your laptop. The owl's feelings are getting hurt, Holly.
But is our next candidate, she is an advocate, yeah, she has a family member who, has disability. Sheila has this.
Okay, Holly, you're gonna have to read what you're looking at and then look at the owl and speak. Because every time you look down to read, we can't hear you.
There you go. There you
Okay,
Go right ahead, my dear, please.
so Sheila has a family member who's lifelong disabled, and in fact, has herself become a person with a disability who uses a chair. And interestingly enough, she's had a lot of interaction with the city. Many years ago, she was treasurer for 10 years for the city. Those are three things, and she's just very ready, because she's retired, to make contribution wherever she can regarding issues of disability and access and life. Anything else, Holly, that I left out?
She worked for the Walnut Street Center. She was the city's treasurer, and she was one of the founding members of the Somerville Olympics, which is
Somerville Special Olympics,
some
right?
Special Olympics in Somerville.
Yeah.
And for parents, something about sorry.
I
Her
think
main purpose is equality and persons living with disabilities to have shown that they need more equality and they need a voice, and she's there to advocate for them.
Her family also helped pass chapter.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
58 years ago, there was no chapter 766 for special ed. However, her parents were the advocates who brought that to be. So thank you for chapter 766. So education is also very important to her. Any questions about Sheila? Okay, I'm gonna put a motion forward to move Sheila forward as a candidate to the mayor's office. All those in, may I have a second?
Yes, I second the motion.
All those in favor, say aye. Yes.
Aye.
Okay, so we have Sheila. And I believe the last person is Nick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nick, is a resident who has 2 children. His son has a rare genetic disease, and, he is the younger son is 4 years old. He is a writer, and he used to write for the Improper Bostonian, which is one of my favorite, papers of long ago. And he talked a lot about ways in which not only would Gus participate in the community, but how together as brothers is very important for them to be able to have that impact together. And
Did you say that last piece again? His brothers?
so his son, or his 2 sons, the importance of having them to be able to interact together and play together in the community. And he also talked about how his younger son, who's soon to be 4, is starting to recognize that not everyone treats his older brother the same, or that there are obstacles for him. And he talked about, we talked about how our work is vital, ensuring the ADA, making sure that we're advancing all of the freedoms. His comment was, these are the values that I already have. And the same with, when we talked about equity and inclusion, these are basic things. Everyone should already be doing this. So, he was all in, and he talked about how things are supposed to be hard, but it doesn't need to be hard to have children with, it doesn't need to be hard for children with disabilities to enjoy the community. Any questions about Nick? Okay, I'm gonna put forth a motion to move Nick forward as a candidate to the mayor.
Second the motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. We have 7 candidates to move forward.
Yay!
I would just like to acknowledge and thank Adrian and Leo and probably hundreds of other people within the city who made sure that we had 10 applicants and have continued to do this before and will always continue to do that. It's a huge, heavy lift. And no one deserves thanks more than Adrian, who actually scheduled 4 people to meet with 8 candidates. So thank you very much. Thank you very much.
The cats paid attention.
Yeah, the cat paid attention, and you have an amazing memory. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Adrian and then to Harriet. Just doing a time check.
Reminded my agenda.
We have 5 minutes, so you can say whatever you like.
All right.
Just 2 things this evening. I forgot the first thing, so I'll switch. Hopefully I'll remember it. Speaking of Zoom meetings and what can happen, it is recommended from the clerk's office as now all boards and commissions and external meetings are on Zoom. 2 things, and then you all can sort of think about it. The most secure way to have a public meeting on Zoom is to use what is called the webinar format. Because it gives a little bit more security. Of course, caveat to the webinar format is that in order for everybody to see everybody, everybody would need to be made a panelist once they were brought into the meeting, which is an easy thing to do technical wise. It just gives a little bit more security. You can still do captioning, things of that nature. So that's something to think about it. The other thing is that it is strongly recommended that the link to this meeting, no matter what format you may choose, actually changes every meeting.
Oh, God.
But yes, because
No, I
what
think that's
happened,
important.
it is important, because
It
what
is.
happens is this particular meeting link has been in existence, we'll say 2 years, because I hit my 2-year anniversary tomorrow. So it has been published not only on city websites, but retweeted, hopefully, re-Facebooked, whatever. And that opens up the risk for what actually just happened at the top of the meeting. So, if it is strongly recommended that we change it up, if not every single meeting, at least every couple meetings, in order to prevent Zoom violence, as we would call it.
So, clearly, we all want to make sure that we don't have people jump on like we did earlier today. And I agree that changing that dial-in information is very important. Did you need us to,
There
as far as
doesn't
the
need to be a
first part?
formal vote, I just need.
oh no, I just didn't know if there's more training or if you want to present anything, or this is just, we're gonna change sort of the format. Not just the phone number, but the style in which. we'll
Well,
Zoom.
so we don't necessarily have to change it to webinar if we think that's too, not as accessible as we would want it. It is an extra step because people have to join as just attendees, and they're not, until I change them to panelists, they're not going to see everybody. They'll hear everything, but they won't see anything.
All right, maybe
we
we just
can
need to
keep it-
demonstrate it
yeah.
together.
Yeah, we can keep it like this, but it is strongly recommended either way you go, that this link changes periodically. So I think we can keep it for December, but starting in January, I would archive this and do a new one maybe for 2 or 3 months.
I'd say change it in December. Why not?
Yeah.
Change it now. I think monthly.
Yeah, so we don't necessarily have to move. Webinar is recommended as the most secure. We don't necessarily have to make that change. The change that does need to happen is we do have to switch the meeting link, because
Yep.
that just happened. And it also apparently presents like security issues for Zoom on the other end. Like, I'll get emails from Zoom being like, this is compromised because it's been out there so much.
Thank you, Adrian.
Yeah.
Brian, you have a question?
My only question is that you should answer Harriet's question right next to you. She's had her hand up for a very long time.
And unless the owl, it's the owl.
Cause
the only
she
people I
she
can
didn't make a
see.
noise. She just put her.
And then
I
the
know
top
she didn't. That's why I said something.
like
Yeah.
Grand Canyon view of
Yeah.
the room.
Yeah, Harriet, what do you need to
Okay.
say?
Please share your thoughts.
Okay, so Frank can help me out and tell me if what I'm saying is accurate, since you know a lot about these things. My experience of the webinar format, and I've been to quite a number of webinars, is that often they are presented in such a way, and maybe this is just like whether you turn on the recording or whether you make the attendees panelists, but so often it curtails the opportunity to raise questions unless you can type them in the chat.
Exactly,
And the chat is irrelevant to a blind user.
correct.
And this is,
Oh, so you can't move
no,
the,
Yeah, so in a webinar, you still have the chat feature unless it would be turned off, and then you have something called Q&A. And the Q&A feature is somebody types a question and it appears.
And you can.
You can either answer within a chat format and then it's on display for everybody who wants to engage. Or you would answer it verbally and you would click a box saying, I'm answering this question verbally. And then say you were all enthralled in a discussion, it may be a few minutes before I would catch somebody joining the webinar and you have to change them to a panelist. So there's a lot of extra logistical steps there. My recommendation is that as long as it continues to stay safe and the clerk's office is fine with this, that you keep non-webinar Zoom, but we're going to have to change that link.
I mean, how would the owl cope if we changed it? Owl wouldn't know when someone's just texting online or chatting. How would you handle it, Owl?
But speaking of the chat, I'm so glad we brought that up. Chat per open meeting law can still be a tool that is used in these meetings. However, you may have noticed, those of you joining us from home or wherever you are, you can actually only send a private chat to the host of this meeting, which is me. You cannot send a private chat. So Brian is not able to send a private chat.
I know,
to
you know
Deborah.
how I know that? Because last month's meeting, I was desperate to say something like, oh, Brian, I just wanted to say something warning. It would have been fine if everyone was like, oh no, I need to tell Brian, please, I didn't realize you were here earlier, or it was just nothing I wouldn't share with the whole world. But I tried to just reach Brian and
You could not.
and I could
And
not.
that was
And I thought
intentional.
it was you.
It was me.
Well,
So
I couldn't reach you.
So the
independently.
That's okay. I was aware. Okay, stop, quiet, restart speaking. It cut out again.
Oh, no.
We're all good.
Okay,
We're
we're
not-
back.
Okay.
Yeah, so no chatting independently, you can't because I've turned it off. If there is a logistical issue, then anybody has the ability to chat the host of the meeting, which is me, and I can figure that. That is allowed. Or if you want to put that in the everybody. And it's not to say that conversations or links are not welcomed in the chat, they certainly are, but they are public because they are part of the meeting. Yeah, everything is public, right? Yeah, and I still haven't remembered what my other thing was. So I will just say that I am out for Thanksgiving next Wednesday, which is the 22nd, through the 27th, which is the following.
And December 12th is our next meeting.
Correct.
I would like to have a December meeting unless that bumps up against a lot of vacations or people would be away, but I'm not sure if the 12th would cause that issue. Is there anyone? We're not changing that. We're gonna stay the way we are.
We'll probably change the
Definitely the link, yes. Oh, go right ahead.
Reason the chat is because discussion or speaking going on and my meeting program.
Hold on, Harry.
Ryan hasn't moved. I know.
Yeah. Harry, you have to start over again. We didn't hear any of that.
So hold on a second. See, so the owl turned our Birdie Bunch box yellow, but then earlier it would turn me yellow when I spoke and it like, so it's not like independent anymore.
It's still independent, it's fine.
Oh,
No, but like it put a line underneath one of us.
oh, wow, within the square.
Yeah,
Oh, I've never
Oh.
noticed that. Danielle, are we back where we need to be?
Yeah, we can hear you again. I think it gets confused when people are talking over each other.
That is true. You do have to be
it's been
mindful
really
of,
screwed up with us.
yeah, the owl wants to hear everybody. It wants to be accessible to everybody. So you have to be mindful of that.
Okay, start over.
Okay, this is just a one or two sentence explanation. the primary reason that chat, well, there are many reasons, but one in particular is that were I to turn on my speech program so that I could hear the chat as it goes along, then it would be crosstalk across whatever is currently spoken in the meeting. So I'm like the owl, I can only do one channel at a time, you know? So that's one thing. And the other thing, though I recognize, acknowledge, and accept that we have to change links. Sometimes I have a struggle with actually getting the links to work independently for myself. And that's something Frank and I can work on. Email is obviously the best way because the website is still not accessible and we just have to keep amending until we figure out a better way. So,
Okay.
you know, otherwise I make a contact of a link and then I just put SCPD and there you are, and bing. But I understand the security. This is the first time to my knowledge since I've been on the commission that we've had a Zoom bomber or two. So, but I totally recognize.
Oh, you missed the big bomb over a year ago.
That was
That was
actually on Bonnie's
epic.
Zoom link. That was in the city.
Yeah, that was insane.
I wasn't there for that.
You missed that one?
I couldn't staff the special meeting, so
okay.
she used her own link and then
That was a disaster.
we had to do it again anyways.
Okay,
It was not good.
Thank you.
sure, thank you. Adrian, did you want to go back?
Oh, I
Cool.
remember my other thing. Sorry. Speaking of record keeping, I will be working finally to get the recordings of the meeting on the city website. So please keep in mind, there are 2 years now of recordings, just about. And so I will start, and it's a different process because the people who do all our streaming and things have to help with that process because they will be linked to our YouTube, to the city's YouTube account.
Okay.
So I'm gonna start with tonight, and then I'm going to work my way backwards. So you'll have the most recent first. And then,
Thank you.
yeah,
very much.
I don't know how long, but I'm gonna start with the most recent.
That's great.
That's it. That's what I.
The chair is yours, vice chair. Would you like to add? I probably need, well, I might need 15 minutes towards the end.
Oh, I have very little to say at the moment because I feel like when we spoke about Tough Street and about crosswalks, and that has been a primary concern.
Okay.
And the passionate desire to find some way to contribute to website accessibility, which is unlikely unless you perchance, Frank, make some suggestions that might help us out. Period. In fact, sorry, I'm punctuating. In fact, there are 1 or 2 things that might be shifted without a whole lot of effort or not insane effort to actually not only make it possible for me to find some things on the website, but all residents. And I've had conversations with other people about their websites, and everyone complains that their municipal websites are just too complex and people can't find things and stuff like that. So I don't feel quite as lonely in the pursuit of clarity and accessibility. And I think that's all I have to say. Thank you, unless anyone has anything to add to that.
I'm gonna bring us all back to the money. That would be my topic for tonight. We have $8,860 collected in fines in October that were added to the account. It does not include interest. I do not have that number in front of me. We have not spent anything in several months. I would like to propose 2 opportunities for using those funds. First, I'd like to fund the 2023-2024 high school scholarship program that we did last year. So seniors who attend Somerville High through this standardized, through this standardized process that exists can also access funds. And last year we allocated $50,000. And we reviewed, honestly redacted, almost blind applications from students, and we read through things, especially their essays on how they were connected to people with disabilities, what they've learned, and also what their goals with their education were and how they would include people with disabilities. And so last year we funded it with $50,000. Unless someone would like to spend more, would open that up.
I would like to propose that, not remembering exactly how much money we have, but I would propose at least 75. And given how fast we're accruing funds, perhaps 100,000, which would give us the capacity to fund more seniors from high school. That's just up for discussion, but that's one thing. And the other thing is I have not taken my charge to the proper places yet, but I have volunteered to talk to the Arts Council about a competition for signs for the bike paths to have people become more aware of people with varying disabilities, have signage to remind the bikers and the walkers that we need to attend a bit more to each other. And granted, I have to work with Brian, whomever you recommend, as to size dimensions and anything else in particular, and materials for the signs and, signposts and all the rest of that. Find out all the different ins and outs of that. And then perhaps for artists with disabilities in Somerville to send in designs for us to review, for signage that would indicate cane walkers, elders, wheelchair users, hearing issues, and whatever else we come up with. So I'm not sure if people remember that we proposed this a few meetings ago, right?
We did, absolutely.
So that's
And
wonderful.
once you sort of have a straw man of not just how this will work, how it will come together, but when you have an idea of what types of funding you would like for that, then we can discuss that as a body and vote how much we would allocate. I personally think 100,000 is a lot. I think that would also
About which?
for the high school scholarships.
Okay, 75?
Brian, you have a comment, and then I know Adrian probably has an accurate account balance. Yes.
So I don't know how much roughly we bring in a year, but just using the roughly 8,000 we brought in October, that's about $100,000 a year. And so I don't think it is fiscally responsible for us to spend the vast majority, if not more than what we make a year on scholarships. I think we want to keep a certain amount of income a year to be used for other things, many of which we haven't even thought of yet. And scholarships, unlike a lot of the things that we would do, is an annual recurring expense. Once we have created a scholarship, it's really hard to reduce it because people begin to notice, students begin to notice, and so you don't want to end up we don't want to end up in a position where we have to reduce the scholarship amount because we've decided we want to do something else. So it's better when it comes to a recurring expense I do think it should be increased on an annual basis because of inflation because we probably should be getting more revenue every year, at least so long as we have parking in the city. In fact, we might get more revenue as we create more accessible parking spaces in the city.
We entice people to illegally park in them. No.
I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
Um,
No other parking.
though,
Yeah, it's a
so-
terrible thing, but it does fund what is
so my
important.
point is that if we want to increase a recurring expense, we should increase it somewhere between 2 to 5% per year, and just do that every year.
Go ahead.
Through the chair, I have an interesting comment to make, which is the following. The students, for example, who applied,
You have to speak up.
okay, the students whose applications we reviewed, their applications were going to a whole lot of different scholarship funding. They did not know where funds were going to come from. Is that accurate, Holly?
They don't know anything about us, and I kind of like the idea that they don't.
So we're not.
Other than maybe that we allocate something, but if we have a description that says we're there to find people who have interest or connections to helping persons who are disabled, and the only information that we're looking at is essays, it could sway people in a certain direction. That's my thought, but Adrian, you had a comment.
Couple things here. So as of the end of October, the balance on that account is $192,085.36. With that said, I do agree with Brian's point about being fiscally responsible with the money. I do also want to remind that, of course, this commission is free to make the choice to continue offering the scholarships to the nonprofit. But I'll remind you that there was a lot of paperwork there, and that has to happen every year in order for you to be able to do that. And that the city itself has its own scholarship funding for high school students, which may make this process a bit easier, but again, I will defer to your decision on that. Yes, and I do agree that I think there are ways to whatever avenue you decide to go to incrementally increase that amount per year, thus perhaps giving an additional student an opportunity or whatever that looks like, but also being mindful that that money could look different every year, especially as the parking situation landscape changes within the city.
Thank you all for your feedback and comments. The way the program is written in the memorandum of understanding and all the documents that were created that support this within the finance and legal teams, that we would need to vote annually should we decide to continue the program. And there's no requirement that it be a certain amount. I understand what you're saying, Brian, about moving things around. I think we should shoot for $50,000 and maybe look at some type of an increase. But I personally think 75 is too high.
I hear that, that's fine.
Because I do think we have other things we can move that to, and $50,000 is a lot of money. And we were able to give 10 students $5,000, which was huge. I mean, we got to read those wonderful thank you notes, and they were very sincere. Is there anyone who'd like to add any comments or feedbacks about $50,000 more, or just so we can get a number and vote on how much we'd like to allocate for the program? No comments?
I have one
Any
more.
thought? I'm
Oh,
just
I'm
gonna
sorry,
ask
somebody
Deborah.
else, yeah.
Deborah, anything you'd like to add?
I do like the idea of having a cost of living increase because we know that tuitions go up every year. So I
Okay.
think that maybe having a 5% increase each year would be feasible.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Pauline, anything you'd like to add? You were at the presentation when we
I
gave,
think, yes, I was. I think an increase would be a good idea, but I'm not really sure how much.
A 5% increase is $2,500 per row.
okay, so,
Yeah,
go ahead, Harriet.
I'd like to say that I agree with that cost of living. And I would like it to increase, and we don't have to do it the following year, to 55,000. So that's just my thought.
I'm all about round numbers.
Well, whatever,
Do you have
whatever.
any
seems-
comments, Frank?
Oh,
Dividing up $52,050 evenly amongst however many applicants we find would be like, oh, hey, you got an extra $3. That just silly math. But I agree, it should be, let's say it should be at least a 5%. That would be our goal. What are your thoughts,
Okay,
Frank?
okay, I just wanted to mention that the most recent inflation numbers is
10 minutes.
3.2%. So just as a point of reference, if you want to
Okay.
keep track of inflation, it needs to be at least 3.2%.
Okay. Although I'm gonna put a motion forward that we fund the high school scholarship foundation program as we did last year with $55,000 under the exact same program and stipulation, and then Adrian and I will start moving those documents around. Hopefully, the majority of those documents will be the same, as opposed to writing them as before. Do I have a second?
Yes.
I have a second for 55,000. All those in favor, please say aye or yes.
I
Anyone opposed? Okay, we're gonna give them $55,000 this year. Thank you all. Next on my list is that I would like to propose that we provide funding for some accessible play features, specifically swings in some of our existing parks. We've had a resident and some other people advocating for these types of equipment. Do I need to pat you on the back? You're okay.
Sorry, probably messes up with Al, sorry about that.
It's okay, the owl can wait. So I'd like to propose that we put aside $5,000 towards accessible play equipment. Clearly, we would need to have work with mobility and others within the city to figure out where are places to put these and how that process would go. But I'd like to just vote so that we can start the process of looking at what our options are and what they would cost and how best to do that. And then clearly we have to report back on that. Adrian, you have a question?
Comment, suggestion through the chair. I do not know much, meaning at all, about cost or anything. I'm strongly suggesting that you have the conversation about cost and scope before voting on an amount of money to set aside for the project.
Okay.
Part of that being that there might be plans in the works that may include those things. So it may be an issue that you would supplement what's already being planned.
As we stand now, there aren't these accessible features.
No, I understand they're not there, but what I'm talking about is whatever may be the master plan of public space or urban forestry to see if there's anything in the works.
Okay,
I would worry that if you set aside $5,000 that you would get to the conversation and they'd be like, we can't do anything with $5,000.
boy,
Yeah.
the top costs more than $5,000 for a 10-year-old kid swing that's accessible, I'm really gonna be sad. I'm gonna like start building it myself.
So, I was just looking, and this is a very brief look, but an adaptive swing is $1,000 just for the equipment. And so installation is going to be another. The usual rule of thumb is that installation is equal to procurement. So it'll be $2,000 roughly per swing to install.
Okay.
And that sounds and feels about right for construction costs for something like this, or installation costs, as the case may be.
Okay, so I'm gonna put forth a motion to allocate $5,000 towards accessible swings or play spaces. However, none of that money will be spent until we review what elements are there and vote that those are the right use for those funds.
Then I recommend that we do not vote. If we're not voting for an actual expenditure of funds for an actual item, it's not a vote, it's a discussion. So I think.
So you can't, in a sense, allocate $5,000 in reserve towards that activity.
You would need a requisition to do that formally within the munis system. And if you don't know what you're spending the money on, you're not gonna have a requisition or the paperwork to support that.
Right.
Okay.
I think we need to decide what we want to do. Now, I think internally for us to know that the budget that we want to spend is roughly $5,000, that's great. But I think we as an organization need to say, we want to do X, Y, and Z. Here's the cost for it. Let's procure it. We'll vote to procure it. But you can't say we vote to procure something that we don't quite know what it is yet.
Well, I'm voting to allocate, and when I think about, the Celtics tickets, we did have ideas of what the prices would be, and sometimes we didn't have a final invoice until
But-
after we bought
Right,
them.
but for Stephen to requisite and have that money reserved, he couldn't do that till he had the invoice.
But we still had the vote, I guess that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but Holly, we knew exactly what we were doing. We knew that we were buying tickets. We didn't know how much they were, but we knew we were buying tickets. In this case, there's a whole plethora of accessible playground equipment that we could buy. Now, if you're going to say we are just going to buy accessible swings, then we can vote on that. But if we don't know exactly what we're going to buy, the vote, it doesn't mean anything because we can't use it to buy anything.
Okay, I'm gonna put a motion forward that we purchase accessible swings for our parks and allocate $5,000 towards our budget. Any questions or?
I have a question.
Yes,
As
ma'am.
long as we have a rough estimate of 2,000 apiece, we're about 6,000.
Well, I think let's start with the 5.
Okay.
I think that once we have the information on procurement costs, et
If there's a
cetera.
change in if there's a change in the price, we can do a price adjustment with a vote. That's really easy to do.
We have 2.5 minutes.
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Out of real curiosity, the person who this request came from, did they ever 311 and ask for an accessible seat in a park and were denied?
Made numerous phone calls as well as myself.
Okay,
And
so they were denied. Perfect. That's all we need to know.
Unfortunately, they were, but yes.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
Yes, second.
Okay, all those in favor of taking $5,000 towards accessible swings, using that, please say aye.
Aye.
In favor, we shall allocate $5,000 for some swings. All right, in a minute and a half. The team from 33 Bow Street could not meet with us. They had a hearing earlier last week, and it's going to go to a full hearing, which will probably be January or February at the earliest. And they were gonna make themselves available tonight to answer some questions. They're gonna come to our December 12th meeting and do that. And I've done some research. I took some photographs of the outside of the building. We've already received a letter from Michael Muley of his response to the variance request, as well as a letter back from 33 Bow Street in response to that. So all of those things will become part of where this is, and I will be posting them as public documents for our meeting, even though we didn't get to fully review them, and then let everyone know where they're at. So all of those who like to read variance requests in their spare time, a whole new one there. It is a beautiful building, I do have to say, and it needs a lot of love. And it's time to become compliant. So
One slight addition from me add to it, which is Michael Muley was the director of the Cambridge Commission for Persons with Disabilities from 25-26. That's been now currently in his retirement, going through and
Harriet, you need to stop and start over because you two were talking over each other and it didn't work.
oh god. Okay, I'll get better
No.
at this.
yes,
Okay, so I was just saying that just to clarify, how everyone in the space knows who Michael Muley is. Michael Muley is the former, now retired director of the Cambridge Commission for Disabilities. And architectural access has been his key contribution to the city, as far as I know. And he is now a consultant to Boston Center for reviewing variances. So he's
saw that person.
so Michael Muley is our resource through the Boston Center for Independent Living that we partner with when architectural access or verification applications are submitted. Annie, did that, was that helpful? Okay, I'm gonna motion to adjourn. Thank everyone very much for being here tonight.
Polly, before we adjourn, I have one question.
Sure.
There's a gentleman who is interested in the Celtics game on January 29th, wondering if his mother can attend with us. He is disabled.
We need to get on top of the plan of how we're gonna,
I think
Get
you
those
all
working.
talk about that at the December meeting.
Yeah.
That should be an agenda, the top agenda item at December.
okay, there's your answer.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for the reminder.
Tune in same time, same station next month. Correct?
Definitely.
Can get a new owl. Okay, move that we adjourn.
I second.
I have a
Second.
second. All those in favor?
I
I.
Aye.
We are adjourned.